Hi, this is Michael Bean, and this is your lesson, free lesson for myfreeactingclass.com for, what is today? Wednesday, August the 26th. Today we're going to be looking at the Actors Challenge script, which I'm hoping some of you will prepare by the deadline for that is end of day Sunday, so that hopefully I can do Monday's lesson looking at them. So we're going to go through the 10 story questions, and we're going to do like a sample read through of the script with everybody. It's a 2-page script. It's written for the two characters are named Georgie and Amy. Georgie is the younger one. Amy is the older one. I picked it because it was my feeling that basically anybody who takes the lesson could choose one of those roles. I mean, obviously, we wouldn't call you Amy if you were a dude and playing the older character, but like Amy could very easily be the parent or the grandparent. Georgie, could be a like very young or could be a teenager. I wanted a single script that we could look at all together, and that then we could talk through in today's story lesson. And what I'm hoping is that some of you will record a take of this and email it to me at info@myfreeactingclass.com by the end of next Sunday. So for the moment, Eve, let's do this. Eve, will you be Amy for me, and me the older character, and then the Maddox, so that we're showing that it is not sort of like explicitly gendered. Will you read Georgie for me? Okay, great. So if first I'm going to put the link into the chat window, and if you are watching this on YouTube later, I will remember to put that link in the notes. So if you want to pull up the scene for yourself, I'm also going to share it with you for a moment. So that's the Actors Challenge script. It's from Heartland, the show. Okay, Eve and Maddox. Here we go. I'll read the stage direction. Heartland episode 602, Georgie Sides, exterior Heartland porch day. Amy comes out of the kitchen, pauses as she sees Georgie sitting up on the edge of the porch, waiting for the McSlade Barnes trailer to come through the gallows gate to pick up Phoenix.
I'm gonna get it ready. Do you want to give me a hand?
Georgie just shakes her head. Amy tries again.
Don't you want to say goodbye to Phoenix?
His name isn't even Phoenix.
Yeah, well, you could still help me groom him.
Is the sky's the limit? What kind of stupid name is that? It isn't even a real name.
It's a show name. People like to have fancy names for shows. His bar name is probably...
Let me guess. Sky? Wow, how would I ever figure that one out?
Amy treads carefully, not rising to the bait.
Listen, he was never our horse. I knew he was from somewhere around here, and he just got out of his pen.
Georgie thinks there's a lot more to it than that.
Maybe he didn't like it where he was.
Georgie, I don't know if he liked it or not.
He jumped the fence to get away.
I don't think so. I think he just sees fences as a big challenge.
You don't get good at jumping unless you have a reason to.
Right. Now, some of the context for this is that Georgie is a runaway, who's basically the grandfather as found in the barn, and at this point the family has sort of taken in, but she's gone through, the Georgie character has gone through a lot of foster homes. So keenly aware that Georgie is talking about herself as much as the horse, Amy kneels at her side, chooses her words carefully.
Listen, Georgie, it doesn't belong to us, and a lot of other horses come through here, and you can't get attached to everyone.
She reaches out to put her arm around Georgie. Georgie knocks it away, jumps to her feet, taking out all her hurt and anger on Amy.
You know what? You're like the worst kind of phony person there is. You pretend to be all friendly and concerned, like you really care and really, really want to help, but it's all just a stupid act.
No, it's not.
Don't get attached. Don't get too comfortable. It's just I can't see that.
Temporary.
Just a temporary situation.
Georgie.
Do you think I haven't heard that crap a million times before? Do you think I don't know what it means?
Georgie runs back into the house. The screen door slams. So I'm going to go back to talking about it. And if you've got the link there in the chat window, you can pull up the script. If you want to sort of go back and forth, I'm going to screen share the 10 actor questions that I normally use, so we can look at those. And these questions are my best shot at like, what is something simple and concise so that we can go through and make sure that we've made all of our clear choices about a script. And I made this list partly for my classes, but also when I realized that I was showing up in auditions and there were questions that I had not answered for myself. That as I was so great that as I was going to auditions, sometimes I was like, wait, I haven't really thought about the style of this show. I didn't bother looking up the director or the producer. That's oh man, like I got to do that right now. And so when I'm prepping for auditions, I still use this checklist, and when I don't, I notice the difference. It doesn't have to take a long time. So the first thing that you'll see on the list is style. And so typically I start by looking up the project on IMDb. Now this was, if you remember from the script, this is Heartland episode 602. So if you're auditioning for Georgie, you're auditioning for season 6, you've got 5 seasons of Heartland. There's no reason for you not to go and watch a trailer for it, to find out what happened in season 5. IMDb will have a summary of all the episodes from the last season. You can, within the space of 5 or 10 minutes, get a pretty solid overview on the show and what has happened up until now. If we've talked about this before, but if it's a TV pilot, if it's brand new, or it's a movie that has not yet been made, then you have to be creative and you have to go look up the director and the producer and the executive producer, and find out from IMDb, typically the last couple of things they've done. You look them up on IMDb or on YouTube, so you can get some little video clips that give you a sense of the writer or the director's style, particularly the director. So there we go. Because I don't have anything embarrassing open in my windows. So Heartland, a multi-generational saga set in Alberta, Canada, and centered on a family getting through life together in both happy and trying times. They had, what, 13 seasons? So I'm sure the write-up for season 1, and season 2 and season 3 was, somewhat smaller. Heartland season 6, we've got descriptions of all of these, the episodes in here. I haven't gone through that, but just so you know, like all I had to do was click on one of these little guys, the seasons, and up pops the description of all of the episodes. Then we can watch a little clip of the trailer.
I have to go home. I try and tell myself that she lived an amazing life.
My daughter died trying to save that horse. I want my granddaughter to grow up thinking that she died for them. What's to do with the babes? You keep 10 feet away at all times. Any part of you that crosses that line will be removed.
Problem is, Grandpa, he's never going to forgive you.
So how come you're going through all mom's stuff and you're making all these decisions about things that you're not even planning to stick around because somebody has to?
I know that you blame me! But you're just trying to help you!
Okay, right. So girls, families, horses, conflict. Oh, right. You get a sense of it, and that's all we really need is a sense of it. If we look at IMDb, the write-up for Heartland, it says drama, family. So let's start there by looking at the 10 questions. And so oh, interesting. Christina did some research, and it looks like they broke up the scene when they actually shot it. It's really normal for the scene to be changed by the time it gets to air. It can be a really useful exercise. Normally, I would say to a student in class, like, don't watch the scene that you're doing before you tape it. unless you're doing it specifically as an exercise. You know, like if you have an actor who's in your age range or who's somewhere near your type that you really like, where you're like, man, that person, they've got something about them that's like me and I really like them. One of the things you can do is you can get a scene from one of their movies or TV shows that just really pops for you, pick a short one, and then recreate it identically, like moment by moment, shot by shot, look by look, so that you can really see how much specificity goes into, like, did they do that with their eyes? Or did they do that with their eyes? Did they move their chin? You know, it's not an exercise that I ever do in class because it's something that takes an enormous amount of time. But if you are working on your own, it can be extremely useful because it puts you in contact with what do we do with our face? What do we do with where we put our eyes? You know, with blinking or not blinking, like all these little things that can sort of make a container that tells the audience how you're feeling. And then you don't have to do as much work from the inside, right? If you can visually tell a story of how the character is feeling, then there's less pressure on you, the actor, to realize that. So 10 questions. Here's the handout, because a number of weeks ago somebody was like, where do I find these? And I'm like, I mean, they're pretty straightforward questions, but here you go. And then I'm going to pop it up here in Pages. So style, family, and drama. Writer's story. So what, like runaway doesn't want to let go of the horse. Like runaway is worried the family will get rid of her, like they're getting rid of the horse. Okay, so we got those, and then my story is the next question in here, and you can throw this in the chat window for me. I would love that. And so my story, right? So I guess the first question here is, do we have more people here who are interested in looking at Georgie, or more who are interested in looking at Amy? Like Christina, are you thinking Amy or Georgie? And Eve, are you looking at Amy or Georgie?
Amy.
Amy, what about you, Christina?
Georgie.
You're looking at Georgie. Okay, Deborah's looking at Amy. Probably like Maddox, is sort of in that in between where he could look at either one if he wants to. Brian's going to be looking at Amy. Our mysterious iPhone person is definitely looking at the Amy character. Ezekiel, you're probably looking at Georgie. Candy, you'd be looking at Amy. Ariane, you'd probably be looking at Georgie. So we could do either one. So I'll tell you what, the first character to get 3 people to, in the chat window to go like, look at this one. That's the one we'll do. So basically then it's just like whoever's fastest at typing or cares enough to be like, pick my character. We got one Amy, we got one Georgie. Ooh, we got 1 and 1. I see people typing. Oh, we got another Amy and another Georgie. So it's like whoever tags in next is our tiebreaker. Oh, there's a Georgie. Okay, so we got 3 Georgies. Let's look at Georgie's character. Right, so if you're playing Georgie, the thing to decide is, what is your story? Right, so the writer's story is runaways worried the family will get rid of her like they're getting rid of the horse. Right, that's, I don't know, that's my 1-sentence version. I recommend, keeping it simple and going for the 1-sentence plain language version, right? You're not writing an essay. Nobody's going to mark or grade this. This literally is for your own understanding of it. So probably each of you would write something different. But what's your story if you're playing Georgie? I don't want to be abandoned. Really nice, right? So Christina's is, I don't want to be abandoned, right? So that's what is the story that she's interested in telling? What is her understanding of what that would be like? Or, what's some of our other folks who are thinking about, who would be thinking about taping Georgie? what's your version of the story? You know, so you could do, you know, everyone's out to get me. Everyone's out to get me, you know, or everyone's a jerk. A jerk, or I can't trust anyone, right? Eve put into the chat window, I want to know I'm loved. Or, right, you know, that you're picking something that you connect with emotionally, because this isn't just my idea of the story. This isn't just the writer's story. You know, it's what's my story? What's the one that I'm like, yeah, this is the story I can get behind. Like, I actually have something to say about this version of the character. And that goes for whether you are playing, you know, guard number 2, you know, at the prison, you know, or whether you're playing something in a family drama, or whether you're playing something in a superhero show. It's still like, what is something I understand, so that I'm going in and sharing something that I want to tell. And I showed you that Bryan Cranston video yesterday, where he says, "This, just know your job. You know, go in and say, here's my story." So Christina put, they don't understand. Now, arc is how Georgie's character story changes from the beginning to the end, right? So the danger in the scene, you know, is to go, well, it's about a sad girl who's sad and then she's sad, you know, or it's about a grumpy girl who's grumpy and then she's grumpy. You know, which, even if it's got truth to it, even if you play that, you know, with lots of reality, it's just not going to be that interesting a story. Arc means, how does the story change from the beginning of the story to the end? So, you know, where is Georgie at the very beginning? She's sad, so right. So Christina's like, is it sad, you know, to upset, you know, or angry, say, or right. And again, it's not like there's one perfect answer to this. You know, this is very influenced by what your story is. You know, and you could do like, they don't understand, or everyone's jerk. You could do I don't care. You know, it starts with I don't care, because clearly she really, really cares. And the only time it's ever okay to play I don't care is if you really, really, really care. You know, you know, I hate everyone. Or, right, and so Christina used feeling words. You know, when I'm doing this for myself, I tend to use short, plain language phrases, because those land on me emotionally more. You know, if I try and play sad to angry personally, I'm much more likely to play what sad looks like, or what angry looks like, to play an idea of it instead of to play the reality of it. Descriptive words. You know, so how does Georgie describe herself or himself if you're, you know, playing Georgie as a dude? Yeah, and this is where, again, you know, we're combining these two things. We're combining the writer's story and my story. And I'm just looking for single word adjectives. You know, and let's, you know, please throw them into the chat window. They don't have to be, you know, right. You know, we just want to get ideas out there, right? We want to take an exploration approach to scenes, so that we're never going at it like it's schoolwork, never going at it like, oh, there's a right version and I have to get it exactly right. I mean, it's art, you know, and there are 1,000 versions of this character. Yeah, she's lonely. Great. Lonely, empty. This is how she describes herself. I can only count on myself. Nice, Candy. Count on myself, right? Independent, right? How she describes herself, not how other people describe her. You know, because you are playing this character. How do you describe yourself? Anything else? Tough, maybe, or smart. Right, can't be soft. Right, and so you see that this, you know, and this are similar. Tough and I can't be soft are similar, but each has a different flavor, and really it's about what impacts you emotionally. And so that's why I'm really keep coming back to, you have to run it through yourself, right? The thing that's right on the top of this, there's no right or wrong in acting. There's only more or less effective. You know, I'm a big believer in that what makes it effective is whether, when you feed this to your system, does it make you feel more? You know, does it make you more connected to the story? And if it does, it's effective. And if it doesn't, then it's a really interesting academic exercise that's not actually effective. And that's the difference between like, here's an assignment, right, and trying to get it right, and I'm trying to make myself feel. I'm trying to put myself in that character. So how does Georgie describe Amy? All right, so Amy. Right, so as far as Georgie's concerned, what's Amy like? Phony, right? It says that right in the script. Right, she's fake nice. Or it's also possible that Georgie thinks she's both nice and phony. Right, she doesn't understand. She's pretentious, great. Right, now for me, pretentious is like a very emotionally effective word. So I like that one because I'm like, great, yeah. If I make Amy pretentious, then all these things she says that look nice on paper, I'm like, oh, but I know what's really going on. She's saying those with a sneer in her voice. She's looking down her nose at me. So I have a reason to be pissed. I have a reason to hate her guts because she's so pretentious. And that's why we're going from like, what does your character think? Now, what does the writer think? Or what's the audience supposed to think about Amy? But what does Georgie think about Amy? With the script relationship, runaway, foster kid, and I don't know, like girl in the family that's taken her in. Okay, so the script relationship is just, this is what the writer give you. Okay, she's a runaway foster kid. She's the, Amy is the girl. Amy is the personalization, and please don't throw these in the chat window. I mean, you can if you want, but when I'm working with actors, I'm like, look, we want this to be as emotionally charged as possible, which means it is your own business. If it is useful for you and you feel safe with a coach or the person you're rehearsing with, to talk it out loud. Sometimes talking out loud can take you deeper into the feeling, but it's never something you need to announce to a group. Nobody needs to know what you're using to anchor the feeling in the script. What is it in your personal life that helps you empathize with the feelings behind the experience? You do not have to have been in foster care to understand the feelings of abandonment, the feelings of I want to know I'm loved, and they don't understand, and everyone's a jerk. That these feelings, are things that you've got access to. And so maybe it's not super present in your life right now. Maybe you're being asked to play a character where you're like, wow. I use pets as an example, all the time, but for instance, if I'm working with an actor here who has to be extremely angry at someone and just like unapologetically like sort of rage out at somebody, I'm like, okay, imagine that you have a dog and your dog has just peed on the carpet, and just look at the dog and say, bad dog. Right, there's no apology. There's no like, oh no, they feel bad, I'm yelling at them. It's just like pure, like, I'm feeling a feeling and I'm unapologetically like punishing you. And then I say, great, now say the line like you said that. So that's like a very simple example. Obviously, you can be much deeper, much realer with this when you personalize it. Ivana Chubbuck, I think, would call that a substitution. She says, what's her substitution? If anybody here has worked with local acting teacher Ben Ratner, he bases his approach on her work. She wrote a book called The Power of the Actor that I haven't talked about yet. I recommended Larry Moss's book, but her name is Ivana Chubbuck, and the book is The Power of the Actor book. You probably get it as an audiobook. I doubt it's on Audible, but who knows? There's lots of actors in LA. And so it's another excellent book, and her 11 steps. I found them. I took, I think, this quote, "There's no right or wrong in acting, only more or less effective," from that book somewhere. And her 11 steps, I think, are useful. she did, or whoever wrote her book did a great job of making it seem totally intuitive that yes, you always do step 1 and then step 2 and then step 3 in her approach. In my experience as an actor, as an artist, and an acting teacher, that's not actually reflective of some kind of necessary series of steps in your own work. I don't actually teach or say, when you're building a scene, you have to do step 1, step 2, step 3 in this order. But her steps make really good sense and fit together and have good, clear, interesting ideas. Larry's book reads more like it's for artists, and her reads more like it's for crafts people, who sort of want to learn new tools to put together a film and TV script specifically. And her basic thing is, what is the most emotionally unresolved in your life? Like, what's the hardest, most difficult thing you're experiencing in your life right now? Make every scene about that. How can you make it more about that? How can you make the location about that? How can you make the other person about that? So just like, does it make you want to rage or cry or laugh until you fall over? Cool. Now it's interesting. And I think there's validity to that, right? Larry Moss also will say in workshops, if it doesn't make you rage, if it doesn't make you cry, if it doesn't make you laugh until you fall over, it's not the right homework. And so both of those have a piece of the truth in them. Now, what do I want? If you're Georgie, what do you want? Right? So if we're going with this, I don't want to be abandoned, then we might say, I want to stay here. Or we might keep it simpler and say, I want what was the name of the horse again? It's Phoenix. Phoenix. Just stay here. Or so we play with those, and then the objective phrase is, for me, the thing that I use to sort of tie up my story and take in the arc, if I can, sort of bring as much of this together in something that's short enough that I can feed it to my brain and still stay connected as an actor. I personally don't do emotional choreography, and I don't teach it. I don't believe that it's effective. First, I'm going to feel this feeling, and then 2 lines later, I'm going to feel this feeling, and 2 lines later, I'm going to feel this feeling. When actors do scenes like that, they typically come across false. They typically come across planned. They typically come across as though they are showing you the feeling, right? It's too easy to get focused on results. What should those feelings look like? And what we want is something that will put you in contact with the story, and fire you up emotionally. And so if we're playing with, I don't want to be abandoned, then you could do the scene as, don't leave me. Or and if you wanted to get them to feel bad, you could do the scene as, nobody, you don't care about me. Perfect. So Christina threw something in the chat window, and Christina, I would just say we would want to adjust that for something that you would say to Amy, right? So instead of, they don't know what I've gone through, which is not super emotionally charged and not directed at another person. Yeah, Candy, that's exactly the thing, right? It's not fair, right? Which encompasses my story and the horse, and there's 1,000 ways to deliver it's not fair. I can deliver it as a pleading or pity me tactic. It's not fair. And I can deliver it with where the scene is going, which is, it's not fair. And so it's still got flexibility, but I can keep coming back to as the actor to, you don't care about me, or it's not fair. If we're going to play with Christina's, you don't know anything. Maybe that's how we turn, it into it. Good. I want Phoenix here. Interesting, right? So something that's sort of more explicitly about the horse. Yeah, we can keep playing with this. Going into a scene, I like to have several of these. I like to have a couple of them because I don't know what's going to make me feel the most until I actually try it in a scene. I don't know what's going to be effective. until I'm actually looking at the other person who's saying it. Anything else is academic. Anything else is, well, on paper, it looks like this one makes the most sense. But sometimes the one that fires me up isn't the one that makes the one that makes the most sense. Sometimes, it's like, don't take my horse. Like, don't take my horse. Like, this is the only thing I care about. Or you can't do this. Or I hate you. Which, and then it starts with like, I hate you. I hate you, I hate you. And it ends with, I hate you, maybe. That way, when you get a self-tape that says, feel free to include a couple of different versions so we can see your range as an actor, which I did a self-tape like that just this morning. Right, they said right there in the description of the details. Or when you're in an audition and they say, that was great, now try it a different way. If you have a couple of these prepared that fire you up but are different flavors of the story, then maybe it makes it that much easier to take the direction, because you're like, great, I already explored some of this. I would love to show you that version of the story. Like, I had to choose one for my first take, but great, like, give me a shot at doing this again. Okay, so you've got that document with the 10 questions, in the chat window, and I mean, they're not rocket science questions, especially if you have acting teachers and acting books that you love, and some things that you already know really work for you. Make your own list. Make your own list of 2 questions or 6 questions or 15 questions. I would say, just keep running it through. Is it effective in the sense of, does it make me feel more? Does it make me feel more connected? Because anything else is just an academic exercise. And nobody's ever going to look at your homework. They're only going to look at your performance. Does anybody have questions about that before we wrap up today? Great. Okay. I'm going to keep bugging you about it, but I really hope that some of you tape these, because I would love to see very different versions, right? I would love to see Deborah's Amy, and Brian's Amy. Like, wouldn't that be fun to be like wildly different interpretations of the same character? But look, they both work because they both found a version that worked for them. Candy, you had a question? Yeah.
Okay, I just wondered, were we supposed to do Georgie or Amy or whatever we wanted to do?
You were supposed to pick whichever character you like.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I just asked because we didn't have time to do the breakdown for both of them.
Okay.
That's why I did the like.
I missed part of the beginning. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Tomorrow we've got Liz McLaughlin coming back to do a little bit of standard American, and she also said that she wanted to do something like sort of fun with you, like Dothraki or Na'vi, so for the Game of Thrones or Avatar fanatics, but just so that you're doing a little building on the foundations of the voice exercises that she gave you last week, and into practical application of here's what you think about when you're working a scene. And I have my own thoughts on that, but I'm not an expert, so I'll let the expert talk to you. And then Friday, we've got Alistair Abel coming in. He's a casting director. He casts for voiceover, commercials, motion capture, and performance capture. And I'm really excited to talk to him. Oh, Eve, do you want to sneak your question in before I wrap? Because we're just about to close things.
Yeah, do we email you the video?
Yes, please. Yeah, if you could email those to info@myfreeactingclass.com. Now, if you want to get really fancy, what you could do is you could use the program Handbrake. So it's called Handbrake. It's a free download. You can get it online for Mac or PC, and you could make that file smaller than 10 megabytes so you could email me the scene directly. That would be if you wanted to get fancy and teach yourself some technical things. If you don't want to get fancy, just upload it to YouTube and send me a link. Yeah, but either way, that's how you would get that scene to me. All right, I look forward. I'm not going to be here tomorrow with Liz, but I look forward to seeing some of you with Alistair on Friday. Bye, everybody. Thanks for showing up on a sunny day. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.